Welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic out there, Heat Nation. And thank you for checking us out. Subscribe here. Subscribe to the Tobin and Leroy show, which you could watch weekdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Off the rest of the week, though, for the Thanksgiving holiday. But hopefully we'll be back in full swing next week. And yeah, man, been watching some Heat basketball. Been very excited about what I've been seeing from this Heat team. Been very enjoyable. But there is one thing that has left me a little bit perplexed and upset. Not because I disagree with Erik Spoelstra. I mean, he's a mad genius. He'll always know more basketball than I do. But I came into this year very excited about what we were going to get from Nikola Jovic. And so far, the resounding answer to that has been nothing. He hasn't gotten to really play. He has gotten sent to Sioux Falls, which I found a little bit surprising. He has not been in the rotation, even when the team was banged up. I know he was sick at one point, but we have yet to get any real significant time for the Miami Heat's 2022 first-round pick. And this is, of course, coinciding with the Miami Heat getting a sensational rookie start from Jaime Jaquez Jr. Now, obviously, they're in different spots. Jaime Jaquez is 22. He has been to 4 years of college. Nico was, a year. He was doing Euro basketball and was a much later draft pick and, filled out his body, got a little bit more hulked up, came into this year. And you were thinking, all right, we're going to get a little bit more from Nikola Jovic, but we haven't. And something has happened over the last 48 hours that has made me kind of intrigued. And that is not just that Nikola Jovic went down to play for the Sioux Falls Skyforce, in which he put up 26 points in his season debut to lead the team in scoring. They did lose by 1 point to Milwaukee's G League team. But he finished with 26 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 4 of 8 from downtown. And it does bear watching. Like, what does this guy have to do to get on the Miami Heat roster regularly? I know that they want to get him playing time, which he is not going to get in Miami. So I do see the value in him playing for Sioux Falls if he's not going to play for Miami. But what is it going to take for him to get in there? Now, the other interesting thing that happened with this was it was not just that Nikola Jovic was playing in Sioux Falls. He wasn't playing in Sioux Falls, He was playing in Wisconsin. He was playing for Sioux Falls in this game. But it's not that he was just playing for Sioux Falls in this Wisconsin matchup against the Wisconsin Herd. But who showed up to watch him right under the basket? But Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler showed up to watch the Sioux Falls Skyforce play the Wisconsin Herd. And you're like, that's kind of cool. Who is he there to see? I mean, the Miami Heat for just house cleans that they had Nikola Jovic there. They had Jamal Cain, who was looking great. Cole Swider got sent down. But we do know that Jimmy has been singing the praises of Nikola early on in the year, that he had been walking around, as he said, with his chest out. He's been walking out with a little bit of swagger, a little bit of a bravado. And we also know that Jovic, of course, was an integral part of Serbia's silver medal team. He started for them every single game. He was probably their best player up in group play until they got to the knockout rounds. And then I would say it was probably Bogdanovic who took over as their best player. But, was their starter, was a big piece of them. And it is a little bit odd that this Miami Heat team has had their injuries early on, and this guy really hasn't gotten a sniff. It's odd. It's a strange thing. And so then Jimmy goes there. He goes to the game, and Spo is asked about this at shoot-around. And it was interesting. So Spo was talking to, this is from Ira Winderman. This is, quote, "We all got together, had some deep dish pizza, and watched the game in my room. And then all of a sudden noticed Jimmy there. And I was like, how did he get there? That's like a 3.5 hour drive. And then, of course, when you're Jimmy Butler's caliber, flights are easier. What a life. If I was one of those players, I would have been extremely motivated, which they were. It was a cool aspect, and that's fun to see." He said, "We really enjoy watching Nikola. It's a big part of his development. You can see why we're really encouraged by his improvement. We have a very intentional plan with him. Getting game minutes right now is the most important thing. He's checked all the other boxes in terms of weight room, conditioning, player development, drilling behind the scenes, and now he needs 5-on-5. We want him to go out there, get a lot of minutes down there, and I want to give him as many games as possible in the next several weeks, but definitely encouraged by his minutes. So there you go. It's not a case of he said that with Jovic, it's probably going to be, he said, a 4 to 5 game stint back to be with us. But then I want to send him out again, hopefully for a little bit of a longer stint. I want to get him a decent amount of games and minutes under his belt. So we're going to see a lot of Nikola Jovic with Sioux Falls. This is not like he's going to be down there unless there's, I guess, I mean, at this rate, you'd probably need injuries to Caleb, Kevin Love, Haywood Highsmith, and Jaime Jaquez for him to get playing time. I just at this rate. But he's only had 2 appearances with the Heat this season. He hasn't even played a total of 30 minutes. And it's a crazy thing that a guy who looks like this, who looks like kind of the prototype of a lot of these hot prospects in the NBA right now, doesn't seem to be able to get a sniff of it. So anyway, yesterday after the game, Jimmy Buckets was asked about going to Sioux Falls, and this is what Jimmy had to say.
And what inspired the trip to Oshkosh to go see the guys?
Nico, I gotta go see my boy, man. I'm a huge Nico fan. And I think he's going to help this organization well after I'm done here. And that's my dog. That's LeBro. I love him to death. So anytime I get a chance to go watch him hoop, I will watch him hoop. Y'all stop playing Nico at the 5, man. Nico's not a 5. See you later.
So there you go. Jimmy Butler not only having thoughts on, not only letting you know why he went to go see Nico, but that but he also is like, hey, by the way, also don't play him there. And I do find this interesting for a couple of reasons. Now, Jimmy does mention there, he goes, he's going to help with this organization well after I'm gone. So, and look, Nikola Jovic has, I would think, a long NBA career ahead. Again, the guy right now, Jovic is 20 years old. He will turn 21 in June. So he just turned 20. This guy is very, very young. Very, very young. And basically will go up until the NBA Finals before he turns 21 years old. But it is, it's an interesting thing for him where it's like they just want to get him a lot of minutes and they want to get him some experience in the game. And that was good for him in the offseason. But I do wonder with Jimmy, like if Jimmy is a big fan of him, if there are any struggles with this Miami Heat team, if they ever do hit a bit of a rut, will Jimmy ever put some influence to make that happen? Now, Jimmy, I wouldn't say is an overbearing superstar in that I don't think he demands a lot of moves, but it will happen from time to time. It will happen from time to time with this Heat team. See Kyle Lowry getting signed. Jimmy Butler was a big reason for that happening. Very close relationship with Kyle Lowry. When Kyle Lowry was swirling around last year and all the trade rumors, Jimmy Butler said he ain't going anywhere. Was that his influence of that, or did he just know that he wasn't going to get traded? I don't know. Who's to say? But I don't think it's nothing when your superstar tells you, I don't want this guy gone, or I do want that guy. Remember a couple of years ago. Now, Duncan Robinson's having an amazing season. I think that Jimmy Butler probably loves this Duncan Robinson. The Duncan Robinson who's talking a lot of bleep, who's saying I'm a bad mother bleeper to his bench. I remember Jimmy Butler's first season with the Heat, and he was talking about all the guys who trash talk, and he even threw Duncan Robinson in there. I remember finding that surprising. But it did get to a point, I think, Jimmy had meetings with Duncan Robinson about not shooting and not having confidence. And I do think it got to a point where Jimmy Butler had a very, very strong relationship with Max Strus, and that's the guy that he wanted in the starting lineup. But I do think that it was a big catalyst. I'm not reporting this. I'm just using logic and results. I do think that Jimmy Butler had an influence on why Max Strus eventually became a part of the Miami Heat starting lineup for a very, very long time. I think that he loved playing with Max Strus. He obviously had a very strong relationship with Max Strus. The two guys were flipping each other the bird. That's their handshake and all that. So it is an interest if Jimmy Butler thinks this highly of Nikola Jovic. Will this be a guy that, he would push the Miami Heat to play more? Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case because Jimmy's already had some very high things to say about Haywood Highsmith. So if he's not a 5, right? Well, if he's not playing him at the 5, you're playing him basically at the 4. And right now the Heat starting 4 is Haywood Highsmith. Kevin Love's basically being a backup 5, but he's always been a power forward. So they're kind of going small-ish in that second lineup anyway. And I do find it interesting that Jimmy is putting this kind of endorsement behind Nikola Jovic. I do think whether he's influencing it or not going to influence him eventually playing, because he does mention that he's going to be a big deal for this franchise long after I'm gone. You think of Jimmy Butler's age. Like, think about this. If Jimmy Butler is 34, say he plays till he's 37, right? Or 38. Nikola Jovic at that point is going to be 24 years old, and should he not be shipped out? But like, if he's still with the Heat, that's going to be a very young man. This is not going to be a man who's not going to have a ton of basketball ahead of him. Who is going to have a ton of basketball ahead of him, excuse me. But you look at Nikola Jovic's only performances this year. They were against Milwaukee. That was a game they were getting smoked by 25. He basically got to be part of that fourth quarter near comeback. He played well in that stint. And then the Minnesota game where they were also very, very banged up. They rested a lot of guys. So it took a lot for him. It took a lot of injuries for him to get out there for this Heat team. I do think if the Heat aren't going to play him, it is smart to have him in Sioux Falls playing and getting basketball under his belt. But I am curious when Spo says about his development that they want him to get minutes right now. I wonder if the plan is this year. I wonder if the plan is for him to do something because, it's not out of the realm possibility that he do make some kind of moves at one point this year. Will that open and free some things up for Jovic? I don't know, but it is interesting to see where they're at right now, see where he's at right now, and also that you have the team's best player, the face of their franchise, telling you that he's a big fan of him, what position he doesn't want him to play. But that he does have his endorsement that he thinks he's going to have a big impact on the franchise even when he's gone. So all of that stuff I found very, very interesting. I personally just want to see this kid have some action. I don't know where that comes because, they are a pretty deep team right now. And Spo also has a lot of respect for the vets of Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry, where those guys aren't going to lose their spots right now. They're not going to lose their minutes. I think Jay Rich in the same ilk there as well. Like, he convinced Jay Rich to come here. He likes a lot of what Jay Rich has been bringing, especially lately. But it's not foolproof. Like, look, Thomas Bryant's found himself out of the rotation after they talked him up a lot in the offseason as well. So we'll just have to see where it goes from here. But it would be interesting to see if it does get to a point at any point this year where Jimmy, throws his weight around. It's like, I want to see what the kid's got. I want to play with him, baby.